California wildfire backlash. State Farm and other insurers are slammed for dropping coverage. They've been doing this for years. This is nothing new. The insurance industry basically said this is going to happen, meaning a major wildfire of this nature. And they said, we're out of here unless we can charge what the, risk commensurate with dollars. We're not doing it anymore. And yet the general public is, why are they canceling our insurance? Because the risk has been too high. Let's get into it. Here we go. If you're like me, you probably spent the last handful of days just kind of watching what's going on with these California wildfires. Just some major damage done. Some people dead. I mean, it's just horrific. The amount of homes that are just taken out. I mean, I started watching and I just couldn't stop, right? It's that train wreck that you're trying to pull away from. I haven't done any podcasts on it because I kind of just wanted to see where things were going to go. You get these news stories, like the mayor of Los Angeles has fired the police chief. Nope, we're all good. 2 thumbs up. And, just all the water issues, the mismanagement issues, the accusations here and there. I've kind of let all that blow over. And now we're going to start talking about some of the real issues, which is, and insurance. This is one of those topics I have talked about forever, which is California pulling out. And for good reason. They've got almost year round now. You've got these wildfires coming through, and the insurance companies basically are stating, hey, this doesn't really work for us. You guys, with Proposition 103, California hinders the ability of insurance companies to get their premiums in line with risk commensurate. And when you've got arguably what a lot of folks are talking about, which is, hey, you didn't clear out the brush, you didn't have water available, you defunded the fire department. I don't think that has a big one, but I'll be covering a lot of these topics. Bottom line is, you got 100-mile-an-hour winds sending embers a couple of miles down the road. You're not going to be able to combat that. But the optics of what we're talking about here, the optics on so many of these stories, Mayor of Los Angeles in Ghana, while this thing broke out. Now, the weather service said, yeah, we're going to have some high winds, but they didn't say, it's going to catch a bunch of stuff on fire. But, this notion when, you're supposed to be in town when bad things happen. All right. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good call. And then when the mayor comes back, you've got moments where, Los Angeles, the mayor just basically ignores a reporter when she's flying back in from Ghana and being asked some pretty pointed questions. Hey, what happened here? Where's the accountability? What's going on? Was there water? Why is there no water? Why are firemen holding out hoses with no water coming out? Some pretty legit questions. And the mayor just doesn't say a word, just pretends to ignore that any of this is happening. Well, here we are. We're going to be a week into it, not too long. And in a couple of days, and these are the stories that are coming out. So insurance companies slammed for dropping coverage, but should they be? I mean, it's business, right? They're evil, big evil corporate. Terrible. Deadly wildfires that hit Southern California this week destroyed a significant number of homes after some leading insurance companies pulled back. And we've been talking about that here for a long time. Pulled back on offering policies in Golden State in recent years due to the rising risks in wildfires, as well as a challenging regulatory environment. Let's talk about that for 1 second. Challenging regulatory environment, literally Proposition 103, 1988 in California. It was basically meant to cap the costs at which insurance companies can raise their premiums. Well, they've done such a great job of that, and insurance has skyrocketed because you've got, the risk because of management, forest management, and what some people are claiming is climate change. You've got this issue where these wildfires are happening basically year round. now. And so for the insurance companies, they can't get their price increases fast enough to cover not only inflation, but the additional risk, the cost of construction, just cost in California in general is all of that is through the roof. So when they say a challenging regulatory environment, they can't raise their rates at a rate that makes it worth taking on the risk. And so if you got to wait, a year or two to get, 2023 or 2024 premiums bumped up, you're going to have to carry that risk on your books. Insurance companies don't want to do that. So what do? We're out of here. We're not issuing any more policies. That's the challenging regulatory environment that nobody really gets into, right? Several ongoing wildfires, including the Palisades Fire and Eaton Fire, have devastated communities in the LA area. Man, have you just been watching footage after footage after footage of that? I mean, I have. It's just like, oh, good Lord. I mean, some of these, I've been to a bunch of these places. It's been years. But, Pacific Palisades, median home price, I think $3.1 million. That is an expensive area. And then just boom, all of a sudden gone. Fires have burned nearly 30,000 acres in a Santa Ana wind event with at least 130,000 people in the area under evacuation orders. I really wanted to go down and cover this, but I realized, you know what? Just one more guy taking up one more hotel in that environment. That's not what we need. I can cover most of what I need to from here and, get footage as needed from online. So at least 5 people have been killed. I think we're up to 11 now, and more than 1,000 buildings have been destroyed. I mean, I think we've, initial reports were like 10,000 combined with all the fires. Maybe that's been brought down now. State Farm, the largest home insurance company in California, announced in March of 2024 that it would discontinue coverage of 72,000 home and apartment policies in the summer. Company cited inflation, regulatory costs, and increasing risk of catastrophes for its decision, and had previously stopped accepting new applications in the state. There's just not enough money coming in on these policies. They feel like they're not able to charge enough to make it worth their while. And so, California has put in this FAIR Act, which is basically state-run insurance. It's less coverage, but it's more money than what you could get normally. But it's something in place instead of nothing. And if you're not familiar with real estate, if you go to buy a home and you've got a mortgage lender involved, meaning you're putting down 20%, whatever, 5%, 10%, 20% down, and you're taking out a loan, that whatever mortgage company, whatever lender that you get your loan from, they are going to require that you have a homeowner's insurance policy so that their risk, their investment, because you're basically partners on the deal with them, they're going to require that you have a homeowner's insurance before they issue you that mortgage. And so without being able to get a homeowner's insurance policy, you're stuck, you're dead in the water. You're just like, boop. There's not much you can do. You can't get financing. And so without like a deal like with the FAIR Act or FAIR, whatever it is, policy in California, a lot of these folks are just, they're just out of luck. And so many of these folks did not have insurance because of this issue here. Several other leading insurers, including Allstate, Farmers, and USAA, have also in recent years curbed new policy applications in California as part of an effort to limit their exposure. This deal doesn't make sense. So that they can carry what they see as undue risk given what the state's regulators have allowed them to charge policyholders. Risk has gone through the roof. I think, was it Allstate? I think Allstate, maybe it was State Farm. State Farm asked for a 20% increase in 2023, 30% increase in 2024, something along those lines. And it takes so long to get anything done in California that until they get those increases on their books, as far as what they can charge, they're carrying what they know is an amount of risk that they're just saying, no, we're not doing it. So the insurance industry has basically been calling these massive fires for a long time, for years. And this is not only happening in California. This is happening in Texas. This is happening in Florida. This is happening in other areas of the country where you've got these kind of big natural disasters that are inclined to happen. What I would say with the California fires is that you can't avoid a 90-mile-an-hour wind or 100-mile-an-hour wind, but you can avoid having one of your big reservoirs offline for maintenance. You can avoid, having major water issues. But even still, even if you had some of that squared away, I don't think it would have much of an impact on the damage of what we got going on here. I'm kind of waiting to see the mass lootings. I mean, how far away is, Pacific Palisades from some of the less socio-economically advantaged neighborhoods in Los Angeles? I mean, let the looting begin right after Rodney King, after that whole thing. I mean, it's not without, the idea of, this could happen. I know you've got politicians bending over backwards to say, you can't steal here in Los Angeles. And all I can think of is, well, how about all of these videos of, people running into 7-Eleven and just, hundreds of them at a time, stealing? How about people running into your stores in the middle of the day and stealing, it's breaking into your jewelry stores? We've seen that time and time and time again. And yet, because a wealthy neighborhood and some other not so wealthy neighborhoods in Los Angeles get rocked with the fire, all of a sudden the politicians are like, oh, you can't loot here. No, they can, and they probably will. We're just waiting for that to happen, because that's what happens when, Proposition 47. Hey, anything under 950, don't worry about it. It's misdemeanor. Go on about your way. It's all good. So this week's wildfires brought new attention to the issue of insurers no longer taking on new policies or declining to renew previous policies in California communities at high risk of wildfires, as prominent entertainment industry figures called out the moves in the wake of the disaster. This is not new news, folks. This has been ongoing. And you know what most people did? You know what? It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. It's just that happens to somebody else, not my house. How many of the people have you heard be like, you know what? I've been through dozens and dozens of these fires. It's all been okay. And then this one, my house got taken. And I mean, it's just horrible. I saw one individual stating, you know what? Yesterday I had a house, today I don't. And I identify with that from the standpoint of one day I had 2 sons, and then the next day, boom, down to 1. It's like, oof. It's crazy when you have major trauma like that. But the insurance industry has been calling this, and this has just been happening. Nope, we're not going to insure. Nope. If we do, it's going to be astronomical. Hey, maybe you want to check out that FAIR policy. You want to go down those roads? This is nothing new. Actor Rob Schneider criticized State Farm in a post on X and wrote, "Screw you and your phony commercials. You're a pile of crap for canceling insurance policies of Californians. I will never use State Farm insurance ever again." Well, I mean, you hate to say it, but it's not like State Farm did this, on the sly. They have been announcing this. I have been podcasting this. A number of other podcasters, that cover financial stuff has been podcasting this as well. This is not new news. So State Farm spokesperson here, our number one priority right now is the safety of our customers, agents, and employees impacted by the fires and assisting our customers in the midst of this tragedy. What a mess. What a mess this will be. I mean, it is just absolutely. How about this? We're going to go through a couple more of things that are related to the insurance industry. And these are all real estate related because so many of these stories have to do with homes, communities, entire neighborhoods that have been, decimated. And, a lot of folks are talking about, well, look at the comparisons to Maui. Yep. All right. Okay. Yep. Big fire. Look at the comparisons to North Carolina or East Tennessee. Yep. All right. Major natural disaster. Is California going to get more help because Gavin Newsom is there? And just a lot of really rich people, a lot of Hollywood actors, a lot of industry people had their homes absolutely destroyed. How long is this going to take to rebuild? Years, especially with the rate at which California goes in its building permit process. It is horrific. Now, Newsom has said he's going to cut down on some of that, make it easier to get your home rebuilt. Why doesn't he do that in the first place? So much of this is policy that could have been avoided. How about, clear cutting some of the forest? How about doing controlled burns? We don't want to have that much stuff going up into the environment. Well, how much stuff is going up into the environment with this kind of fire? You're going to have it one way or the other. And, this whole thing with the smelt, diverting water. How about Trump calling this? Basically, he's been talking about the freshwater thing in California, diverting water from north out to the ocean instead of going into the reservoirs. How about Joe Rogan absolutely calling this one as well? I mean, in July, he just basically said, big fire, 40 mile an hour, going to come down over the mountains and go right out to the sea. It's going to burn Los Angeles, whatever way that takes. I mean, this is not shocking stuff. It's only shocking when it actually happens because it ends up in stuff like this. Advocates demand eviction moratorium. Rent freeze as Los Angeles landlords cash in on the crisis. Well, you think you're going to have some supply and demand issues here? Housing, Los Angeles is sanctuary city, and it basically gave all those, entry-level housing, entry-level apartments to the illegals. Now maybe they want to reconsider that because you've had a housing issue. You've had a housing supply issue for years in the United States, and particularly in communities where you've had a ton of illegals. Now you've got landlords being accused of you're cashing in on the crisis, with some Los Angeles landlords jacking up rental listing prices by 50% or more as historic wildfires rage. Housing advocates in the nation's second largest city are calling for an immediate eviction moratorium and rent freeze. Okay, yeah, you know what? There's bigger problems out there, such as the home that I once was renting is now gone. Where do I go? That's where people are at right now. Where do I go? All of these misplaced people, where do they go? I mean, what a mess. What a mess. And I think, again, going back to the winds, what are you going to do with a 100-mile-an-hour wind? I mean, you're basically just at its mercy, right? But could there have been things done? Absolutely. And it's those things that are the optics of this whole deal where, hindsight is 20/20. Hey, if they would have done this, if they would have done that. And that is some of why the insurance companies have pulled out, is because California has some really high wildfire risk. And we have seen it. It has happened. So we got California State Penal Code saying you can't raise rent by more than 10% of the price. So we've got that going on. Price gouging. It's called price gouging. Okay. Yeah. And so they want to go ahead and put an artificial cap on it. So some of the very concepts that have gotten California where they are, Proposition 103 being one of them. Hey, let's eliminate the ability of insurance companies to get their premiums where they need to. Let's not let them basically, run their numbers based on what they need. And if the market says no, then the market says no. Instead, the insurance market is just basically pulled out. You've got so many examples of policy, terrible policy on wildfire management that has led to this situation. And, the insurance thing is just one more item that it's like, what do you think was going to happen? Where did you think this was going to go? So now you've got even less supply in an already tight, hot real estate market, and you're going to have landlords jacking up those prices. because they can. And you know what? California's going to say, oh, you can't do that. Well, there's bigger fish to fry. There's bigger fish to fry. How about like Newsom, maybe getting to work on that one reservoir that was been offline for a year because of maintenance? About working on those kinds of things instead of, working on creating this imaginary war with Trump over policy that may or may not come into fruition. About that, maybe work along something along the lines of that. Yeah, here we get into price gouging in the wake of a disaster is unacceptable. It's simple and it can be done immediately. But will LA leaders even propose it? LA leaders got a lot more going on than eviction moratorium and price gouging. They're getting hit from all different angles. They're going to be lucky to keep their jobs as going through. Devastating fires sent LA residents scrambling for luxury homes in a tight market. Get me to Newport. Get me away from the fires. So here's some of that impact. Top luxury realtor Dylan Eckert, whose clients include Justin Bieber and Rihanna, said he's received 36 calls in the past 18 hours from people whose homes in Malibu and Pacific Palisades have been reduced to ash. Displaced residents of Altadena are also scrambling to find housing in the other side of the city. And Altadena is that has a more diverse economic group of folks living there, right? It's got more affordable housing. Nothing in LA is cheap, but it's got more affordable housing. So you've kind of got the haves and the have-nots. And what we're hearing about right now is just a lot of really rich people who have never been in a position where they've had to go, oof, wow, how did we get here? Like literally, how did we get here? And maybe they have to question, why can't I get insurance? Why am I not able to get a policy on this home? Oh, I'll just self-insure. Well, how'd that work out for you, right? I mean, just absolutely nuts. I think you've got a lot of folks who, have enough money to get through this, and they're going to be fine, but they are really going to be forced to look at some of the policies. And these are policies that have been in the making for years and years and years. And this is what you end up with. You end up with a housing market that's just going to be absolutely rocked. Miami retail guy says a friend was offered $750,000 for the land after his 4.5 million Palisades home burned down in Los Angeles wildfires. So you're going to have people that are going to be like, yeah, I'll take a risk at that. Now, think about this. So $750 is super cheap for a piece of dirt in Pacific Palisades, just is. That should be way more based on, retail value. But then again, you're in a known fire zone. So somebody's going to buy that. They're going to develop it. They're going to build a home on it, knowing that they are taking on whatever risk comes with that, which is your house might burn down. So you're going to see a bunch of stories like this. And this is kind of the flip side to the insurance. And they want a deal, right? $750,000 for a home or for a piece of dirt for a lot that's already pre-cleared. When you've got retail value sales price of 4.5 million. So you're going to have to discount this stuff hugely in order to get it moved, because who's going to want to take that risk? Oh, it's in a known fire zone. Oh, have you had a fire lately? Yeah, Pacific Palisades fire, just reduced it to rubble. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, all right. You're going to have to really reduce this stuff to make this go, because the risk, again, is who's going to want to insure this? Why would you want to insure this? I mean, what are the odds of another fire happening? Very high. Okay. All right. Because will California change any of the policies that they've got going on? Of course not. Of course not. They will not change a thing. They will talk about it. They will have committee meetings. They will do stuff. They will create more policy that actually impacts their constituents negatively. That's what will come out of this. They won't do anything reasonable because it's run by a bunch of Democrats, progressive Democrats, who don't really know how to manage things. And this is why you end up with this kind of thing happening, because the marketplace reacts to it and insurance companies say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. You can keep your policy money. We'll move to somewhere else where we're going to take their money as well and not have the bureaucratic nightmare of dealing with how California regulates the insurance industry. Thanks, but no thanks. And that is the story that you're dealing with. Meanwhile, these folks here are just, brutal, right? No home. Home is just leveled. Horrific. But again, this has been happening. It's a known quantity. It's a known risk. Here we are. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.